Hey, welcome to the Adaptation Station. I'm Kat Averill, your host, and this is episode 4, That Is the Spell.
Popular, you're gonna be popular.
Did you know that it's actually easier to list all of the musicals that aren't adaptations than the ones that are? It's true, there's even a TV Tropes page about it. And the troper who put it there has a lot of interesting points about why this might be. First of all, musicals have a lot of people collaborating on it. Even just people who are creating the content of the musical, not even just aesthetic things. I mean, there are people who work on the book, the script, and then the music and the lyrics and the libretto, and those are all the text of the narrative itself. So it's easier to have a basic story to work from. Second of all, an adaptation musical is more bankable because it's presenting a known property. Staging a musical is one of the biggest entertainment gambles out there. It's very expensive, and the chance of return can be really risky because people don't want to casually see it. Like, people find it too pricey or too intimidating to go see regularly. But even when working from pre-existing material, adapting a music can present some really unique technical challenges, not the least of which is, limited space, live shows, and, there actually having to be music. I mean, first of all, you have to be able to fit it in a theater, on a stage, and people have to do it over and over again, 8 shows a week. Even bankability has a limit when translating certain narratives to the stage. Via con Dios, those of you who have to star in Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. I mean, if you really think about it, musical theater is a unique, demanding, and transformative medium in and of itself. All musicals are basically hyper-fantasy worlds in which the songs represent semi-diegetic narrative spaces whose connection to reality often varies, within a show. Some of them might actually be a stand-in for a dialogue in a scene that is going on, while others are more interior, that take the same purpose as a soliloquy or an aside, that broadcasts the character's emotional state without needing to be directly visible or hearable by other people. In fact, in musicals, the songs can act as a sort of emotional transcription for the characters. They get to sing how they feel. They don't have to talk to other people. They can tell you directly, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is how I feel about what is happening. So yeah, musical theater can be really emotionally charged as a medium. It can achieve a lot of depth that way, although some people find that more off-putting than accessible. But interestingly, a flip side to this emotional earnestness means also a facility with things like dry wit and social commentary and satire. Either way, adapting a work into a musical opens up a whole new emotional landscape and language with which to convey character and plot. So that can bring about a lot of changes to a narrative, like, for example, our old pal. As I mentioned in the first video, although the book and the musical deal with similar themes, the musical is very much more upbeat and in earnest than the book is, which may be a function of the people who produce the musical trying to make it accessible to a wider base audience, a more family-friendly audience, which I think might have been a particular aim of the musical since it was so visually and technically stunning. It was a real expensive spectacle, so they needed to put more people in the seats. But theater has never been one to shy away from difficult subjects with a full range of human emotion, so not every musical adaptation is a chipper, Disney-fied, songbird version of the original stuff. I mean, nothing is really limited when it comes to the types of things that can be adapted into musicals. They've made some pretty weird ones over the years, such as, Catch Me If You Can, an Evil Dead musical, Shrek, and, of course, Carrie, which was made into a musical not once but twice. One of the musicals that really combines what I think it means to put a narrative into musical form is Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods, which, while not a direct adaptation of a single pre-existing work, takes all of, the fairy tales of the European tradition. It takes all of those stories and puts them together into one musical in which all of the stories intersect and interweave. And in examining them in musical form and in joint form, it really examines why we tell the stories we tell and what power the stories we keep retelling have. Literally, it's everything that I said from the first video. The musical focuses on how our ideas about morality and societal expectation works its way into the stories we tell, and how the stories we keep telling shape future generations.
Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom, there lived
Careful the things you say.
a young maiden,
Children will listen.
a sad young lad,
Careful the things you do.
a childless
Children will
baker,
see.
with his wife.
The songs in the show give a more emotional and in-depth point of view on the characters and the happenings beyond the somewhat shallow understanding we might have of them from their fairy tale form, in order to create a more human and complex picture of our relation to our myths. Now, jukebox musicals are a very particular kind of adaptive musical in which they take songs that are pre-existing, often from genres really different from what we would think of as the musical theater genre, and they find a certain emotional truth in the songs and turn them into a plot independent of the song's original forms. Examples include The Who's Tommy, Jersey Boys, or Across the Universe, the musical directed by Julie Taymor. Which brings us to another interesting adaptive happening when a staged musical gets adapted into a film. Now, the major change in this adaptation is the use of space and the technical limitations. A movie musical doesn't have to fit into a box, sort of like a stage musical does, and that can bring about a lot of changes to the story. Like, for example, the recent Les Miserables. While on a personal note I found it overall satisfactory, one thing that really stood out for me, a change in the musical version versus the stage version, is that during One Day More, a number that was really interesting to watch in light of one of the things that the people who made the movie were really proud of is that all of the singing was filmed on set. Like, it wasn't in a studio and then put over the video. They sang right there in front of the camera. But when they put all the individual pieces of all of the characters singing, because each character during One Day More, which is the big cast number, each character was in a different place and singing on their own. And then they just sort of stitched that together. But it really lacked the resonance that comes from a full cast on a stage singing One Day More all at the same time.
One day more, one day to revolution. We will nip it in the bud. We'll be ready for this schoolboys. Tomorrow is the judgment day.
There's a really powerful harmony and resonance that comes from everybody singing at once that was really lost in the movie, which was interesting. I didn't think of that as an effect of having not everybody all in one place. But there you go. Adaptations. Really, the power of a musical is the same power as any other narrative, except amplified and intense and theatrical, if you will. The power to produce a visceral emotion, to make you feel because the actor on stage who's singing their heart out is feeling that emotion. They are using song, the human instrument, to produce fear, love, hate, what have you. Some people might find it kitschy or silly, but I think at the end of the day, what a musical adaptation is about is reaching into the heart of a story and saying, what does this story make you feel? What do the characters feel? What does the story itself feel? And translating that into song. Musical adaptations are about reaching a deeper emotional truth. So, thanks for sitting there and listening to me talk about musicals for a while. This has been the Adaptation Station. I'm your host, Kat Averill, and signing off on our 4th episode, That Is the Spell. Thanks for watching.
Careful the tale you tell.